I've always been intrigued by the Atlantic slave trade. We only talk about the ships that made it. We never talk about the ones that didn't. We want to tell those stories. People always talk about slavery like it's ancient history. It's not. This is a larger story of what was really going on with the slave trade.
Wow.
Yes. There are ships that went down with our ancestors on them. We'll use the adventure of diving to tell a larger story.
Look at that. That's a tusk.
These merchants were trafficking in Africans and ivory.
This is called the Volongo.
We're actually looking at the site of one of the greatest crimes of humanity
In all of history.
The purity of blood legislation led directly to the Pope.
It made, for the first time, race a criteria.
The story of the slave trade is world history. England was involved, Portugal was involved, the French, the Dutch, the Africans were involved in it.
We followed our ancestry back to Arthur Burnham.
Arthur was born into slavery.
3 years old when slavery ended. And this is his mother, Matilda.
Who was a slave.
Yes, that's right.
My ancestors came from Gabon. I want to see who I am and where I came from. I was a lost son that returned. I put a link back in my chain that was broken. It touches something inside me.
All of these Europeans thought that it was compatible to conduct this horrific trade. And at the same time, these guys were going into church and saying their prayers every day.
One of those was worth one slave.
This is currency created to buy a human being.
Time and thought was put into how to design this inhumane arrangement.
Yes, this is the era of the Enlightenment. This is scientific.
It's absolutely sinister.
The case of the slaves was the same as if horses had been thrown overboard.
This is just one case that illustrates a huge industry.
Right here, people made deals that affected slavery.
You can't really understand the slave trade unless you think of coffee. It's a center of a business concerned with the slave trade.
Sugar and coffee was the curse of black people because Europeans wanted sugar.
What is it?
This is part of a sugar factory.
So the life expectancy of an African here.
They record 8 to 10 years. That's the price of sugar.
There's more than one way to be connected to who we are. Musically, I know my lineage. The banjo, it was known by everybody as a black instrument.
Are you saying that bluegrass actually began with African Americans?
100%.
Fractals are patterns that repeat at different scales. Such a terrific example here. Got the cross within crosses on the roof.
It's beautiful, but it's also mathematical.
Exactly. This is really a geometric theme that occurs again and again in these African structures. I was looking at these aerial photographs of African villages, and that's when I realized those look like fractals. Once you understand fractals, that whole African indigenous knowledge system opens up. It's all over Africa.
People were rising up. People were fighting back.
It couldn't have all transpired in peace.
Africans were not accepting this state of affairs.
The head represents your soul, your being. You can have all the expressions. So in the faces, you can see the identity. It's that I'm trying to capture.
This is fantastic.
The story of emancipation is just wrong if it's told without African Americans actually claiming their own freedom.
Some people say, oh, don't you feel sorrow when you see this? Still a feeling of anger for me.
Yeah.
This is man's inhumanity to man. This is almost the capital of it.